Welcome to the Explainer. So if you're recovering from persistent postural perceptual dizziness, or 3PD, you already know how frustrating and honestly confusing the journey can be. Well, today we're going to completely change how you see that whole process. Let's just start here, because this really gets to the heart of what 3PD feels like, right? It's like this sudden, disorienting storm that just shows up out of nowhere, leaving you grabbing the kitchen counter just to feel stable. And here's the thing about that storm, it has this nasty habit of rolling back in just when you think you're finally making progress. You'll have a few good weeks, maybe even a month, and then bam, the dizziness is back. But here's the secret. A setback isn't what it looks like. What's really happening isn't a total loss of all your progress. You're not back at square one. It's a temporary sensory mismatch. The best way to think about it is like your brain is trying to tune into two different radio stations at the exact same time. All you get is static and confusion, and that's just your brain relearning how to trust your body's signals. So to really get a handle on this mismatch, let's dig into how your brain actually manages balance. And we're going to use a really simple, but I think powerful metaphor to do it. I want you to literally picture your brain as a DJ. It's standing at this huge, complex mixing board, and its only job all day long is to blend three main channels together to create this perfect, smooth track of stability that keeps you upright. So what are these three channels? Well, first, you've got your visual system. That's what you see. Second is your somatosensory system. That's what you feel through the ground, through your muscles and your joints. And the third, the really important one, is your vestibular system in your inner ear. Think of that one as the judge. It's the ultimate integrity checker for all movement. And this is the absolute heart of the problem in 3PD. After that first dizzy spell, whatever caused it, the brain's DJ kind of freaks out. It completely loses trust in the judge, in that vestibular system. So what does it do? It cranks the volume way, way up on the other two channels, vision and touch. And that's what creates that feeling of being visually and surface dependent. Okay, let's switch gears to another metaphor, and this one is fantastic for explaining why some days are just so much harder than others, and why your symptoms can feel like they come out of nowhere. I want you to think of your brain's capacity to process all this sensory info as a bucket. And you can even check in with yourself on a simple 1 to 10 scale. If you're at a 1, the bucket's pretty empty. You've got tons of capacity. But if you're at a 10, well, that bucket is overflowing, and that's exactly when the symptoms show up. So the obvious question is, what's actually filling up this bucket all day long? Well, it's almost never just one thing. First, you have this constant low-level effort your brain is putting in just to manage that sensory mismatch in the background. Then, on top of that, you start piling on everyday life, right? High emotional stress, not getting enough sleep, maybe you're fighting a cold, or you spent way too much time staring at a computer screen. And when that bucket overflows, that's when the symptoms pop back up. But this is so important. This is not a new injury. It's not a failure. It is simply a signal that your system's capacity, its little microenvironment, just got maxed out. It is data, not danger. Okay, this next idea, this is probably the single most important concept for totally reframing your recovery. If you only remember one thing from this whole explainer, please make it this. Healing from 3PD is not a straight line that just goes up and up and up. It looks a lot more like this, a sine wave. It has these natural, wonderful peaks where you feel clear and you're making progress, and it has these inevitable valleys that feel just like a setback. See, a valley isn't you going backward. It's more like your brain is having a flashback to that original injury. It's a little panic moment as it's trying to figure out how to trust all of your balance systems again. All right, so now that we get the what and the why, let's talk about the how. What can you actually do when you find yourself sliding into one of those valleys? We need a toolkit to help you get back to a peak faster. So here's a super simple 3-step blueprint. First, just acknowledge the wave. Say to yourself, okay, this is a valley, not a cliff. It's temporary. Second, soften your stabilizers. We all do it. We clench our jaw, our shoulders creep up to our ears. Consciously let them drop. And third, trust the path. Find one steady point on the horizon and just rest your eyes there. It gives your brain an anchor. Now, a question we get all the time is, okay, that's great, but what exercises can I physically do when I'm in the middle of a flare-up?
The absolute key here is to not power through it. The goal is to calm your nervous system down. So focus on really simple grounding exercises that don't ask too much of your visual system, which is already working overtime. Things like deep belly breathing or some very, very gentle neck stretches can work wonders to signal safety to your brain. And of course, the biggest question of all, the one that's on everyone's mind when they're stuck in that valley. How long is this going to last?
Look, there's no single timeline that fits everybody. A valley could last a few hours, or it might be a few days. But the crucial part, the thing you have to hold on to, is that over time and with practice, the valleys get shallower, they don't last as long, and those peaks, the periods of feeling good, they get much, much longer. So, let's bring all of this home with one final and I think really powerful shift in how we look at all this. Please remember, every single time you navigate a valley and come out the other side, you're not just surviving, your brain is actively learning. Each cycle proves that this sensory mismatch isn't some permanent threat. The path forward gets more stable, and that light at the end of the tunnel, it stops being a flicker and becomes a steady, reliable glow. So, I'm going to leave you with this question to take with you. The next time you feel that dip, that valley starting, instead of seeing it as a failure, how can you reframe it? Try thinking of it as a rep at the gym. Yeah, it's hard work, but each one is actually building your resilience and strengthening your entire system for good.